We're back at the CEC headquarters in Warsaw with the managing partner, Michał Koczalski. Michał, the beginning of 2018 was very exciting in political terms, but following the cabinet reshuffle and a change of prime minister in December from Beata Szydło to Mateusz Morawiecki, I wanted to ask you how these developments influenced energy policy, because no change came in the energy ministry. Many commentators expected that change. But Energy Minister Krzysztof Tchórzewski has retained his position, but there are several voices that the actual decision-making center and the influences in the energy field have changed.
Thanks, Staszek. I mean, absolutely, the beginning of 2018 was exciting in terms of political developments. And we clearly saw that Prime Minister Morawiecki gained a lot of power, not only within the cabinet, but also politically speaking, inside the party. So not only he became the head of the government, but also he got new ministers that are very closely allied with him, like Minister Kwieciński, responsible for development, meaning EU funds in this respect. Minister Emilewicz with the new portfolio called Ministry of Technology and Entrepreneurship. So he gained votes at the cabinet meetings. And in terms of energy portfolio, I read it as Minister Tchórzewski remaining in the seat because of being a very close ally to Mr. Kaczyński. And, well, having, let's say, positive results in how the portfolio was developing in the past 2 years, all in all. But then we have been observing that for many, many months, that there were a lot of, let's say, argument points between Tchórzewski and Morawiecki in terms of how energy policy should look like. And, until now we haven't seen the document. There are some rumors that it's being spread out somewhere and it's almost finished, but still we haven't seen it. So I would see that Tchórzewski will do his job, but Morawiecki will be putting more and more into this basket, trying to convince the cabinet that, well, energy, it's not just about next 5 or 10 years, but we have to think of a sustainable energy policy, and sticking to coal is certainly not an answer.
And how is he going to enforce his vision? Because there needs to be some changes, for instance, in the state-owned energy giants. Will that balance of power change somehow to help Morawiecki?
We're hearing that more and more that one of the results of the big government reshuffle is that also there will be changes in the level of top management of those state energy companies. So because of the fact that supervision has not changed, it's still in the Minister of Energy hands, then I would think that Prime Minister Morawiecki will do his best to put his people to the management so that he has more control over how they operate, and this most certainly will be clear to see when we have the energy policy published and we see how things are developing in terms of wind, either onshore or offshore, or the nuclear power plants.
Because the most recent gossip is that the nuclear power plant decision will come in the first quarter and the first half year, but of course we've been hearing that for over a year now.
We've been hearing that for, I think, past 8 years, so I wouldn't stick to that too much. I mean, it's a 60 billion zlotys investment, and no one has ever had the answer how we get this money to build this plant. I mean, we both saw the recent charts that supposedly are taken from this new energy policy 2040, and there is this huge basket of energy which is described as either coal or nuclear. And as we heard Tchórzewski in the past months talking more and more about closing the coal and making no new investments, then they're really putting much effort to try to put the nuclear power plant in place. But as I said, it's a 60 billion plus investment, so it's a huge challenge for the government.
Considering it is such a huge investment, let's take a look at the perspective of the upcoming election season. The the closest election is the local elections, but the parliamentary elections will follow soon. And this reshuffle was apparently made so that PiS has a better chance at taking a big chunk of the centrist electorate. But will energy issues and, for instance, such a big investment into nuclear power be an actual part of an important election debate?
No, I just wouldn't imagine that talking about nuclear power plant will be an issue. Maybe for people around Chernobyl, but well, they're supportive, so what to debate about. I would rather think that topics that are under Mr. Minister Emilevich's portfolio will dominate. I mean, it's the air quality issue that in the recent polls we saw that it's 90% of people who actually are concerned about air quality in Polish cities, and this is just a fact, and this is a fact that this government and whoever will come next will have to deal with, and because of the local issue of this problem, I think this will be one of the main themes, and it should be one of the main themes in at least local governmental elections. And the other topic that also comes down to the level of municipalities, of course, this whole thing about electromobility, which we've been discussing a couple of months ago. Right now we have the new act, it's in place, it has some flaws, but at least we still see that there is framework, and it gives some space to maneuver for investors, but also for the municipalities to take action.
Okay, thanks, Michał. I'll see you back here if there is any news on electromobility, clean air, or the energy mix, a whole range of topics.
I'm around.
Thanks.
Thank you.
To gain more information about Poland and the region, please follow us on Twitter @CECGR and visit our website for the latest briefs.